Hello everyone, welcome to P1 PM IAS. Welcome to the third session of third lecture of yearly current affairs 2024-25 for UPSC CSC for prelims as well as mains perspective. So here we will start from international relations. So you will be aware that we are ongoing for yearly current affairs from January 2023 to April 2024. Okay, so here we start from international relations because in the previous session we have covered two lectures up to this polity sections. Okay, and now we will start from international relations. So here the first topic is India and Global South. Why was in news? A special virtual summit, the Voice of Global South Summit, was hosted by India. And more in news that India's presidency of G20 provides it opportunity to share the ideas and aspirations of the countries which are not represented in 2020 in G20. The agenda of G20 presidency will be shaped in consultation with not just G20 partners but also with the Global South. And theme of the India's philosophy of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam of G20 for 2023 presidency of India. So we will understand what is G20. Okay, so G20 is the global group in which 19 countries and one group member such as European Union, and now after G20 held in India, the European Union has been included in the G20 group. Okay, and the G20 group was created during the Asian crisis in 1999. Okay, so here the more than 120 nations participated in G20, where the India is currently becoming a G20 presidency. Okay, the summit called a global agenda of respond, recognize, respect and reform to energize the world. So remember this. What are the challenges in engaging with the Global South? Global South means you can understand this is the equator in hypothetically at 0 degree Celsius, 0 degree not Celsius but 0 degree equator. Okay, so here this is US, Canada, Mexico, these are and the European countries as well as Russia. Here is China. China is come in the Global South because and it will be currently the developed country. This Global South divided the developed as well as and developing countries. So all developed countries come under Global North and all developing countries come under Global South. Okay, so below the equator come under Global South such as South Asia, Africa and Latin America, and Australia, Europe and North America come under the Global North. Okay, so remember this. Domestic issues. Second challenge is domestic issues. India is itself facing many developmental challenges despite having impressive aggregate GDP and growing economic, industrial and technological capabilities. Rising population is putting immense pressure on resources. So because lack of resources, of the global south due to facing challenges due to economic losses of global south countries cannot tackle with the economic challenges to the global north. Okay, so here the G20 has the domestic issues among the member countries, and next is the past experiences, because groups like NAM such as non-alignment movement group 77 are not much effective in raising the voice of developing countries. And western hegemony in finance, India is not much financially strong to fulfill the developmental need of the developing countries. Okay, and western countries like USA, France take leverage of their financial resources, and non-inclusion is another challenge for the G20 group, and countries like China, Pakistan, etc. were not invited to voice of global south summit, hence showing rift in global south. So these are some challenges among the global south countries or G20 agenda. Initiatives launched in the G20 summit such as Arogyamatri Wellness Friendship. India will provide essential medical supplies under Gavi program. Remember this Gavi, this is galvanizing assurance vaccine initiative, which is launched by the developing as well as developed countries during the pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic. And Global South Center of Excellence, it will undertake research on developmental solutions or best practices of any Global South countries. And Global South Science and Technology Initiative, India will share its expertise with other developing countries with the help of developed countries. And Global South Young Diplomats Forum, because of the cognitive recognition of Indian diplomats as well as youthful officers of foreign ministers, will connect another foreign officers with other ministers and with developed countries diplomatic relations. Global South scholarships, it will provide scholarship to students of developing countries to pursue higher education in India. So these are the initiatives of G20 summit. And global agenda of respond, recognize, respect and reform. So you can remember the 4 R's which are initiated during the summit. Response means framing an inclusive and balanced international agenda, and recognize the common but differentiated responsibilities applies to all global challenges. And respect the rule of law and peaceful resolution of differences and disputes. Okay, and reform, including the United Nations to make them more relevant. So remember this. Initiatives to engage with Global South. For global non-aligned movement, it is a group of mainly third world countries from Africa, Asia, Latin America and other regions of the world. Okay, and it was formally established in 1961. Socio-economic development, restructuring of the international economic system, international cooperation on an equal footing were main objectives of this group of 77. It was established on 15th of June 1964 by 77 developing countries, and this group provides the means for the countries of the South to articulate and promote their collective economic interests and enhance their joint negotiating capacity on all major international economic issues within the United Nations system, and promote South-South cooperation for development. Okay, so remember this. And in the context of India, vaccine Matri program. Remember this, the vaccine Matri program launched by India in order to deal with the COVID-19 crisis. India supplied vaccine through its vaccine Matri program to the to more than uh, 50 countries of the world. And humanitarian assistance and disaster relief, you can remember HADR. India offers humanitarian assistance and disaster relief support to other developing countries such as vanilla operation vanilla for disaster response fund to the Madagascar, and Operation Ganga for Ukraine. Okay, an Indian Technical and Economic Cooperation Program 1964 offers financial as well as technological assistance to various mutually agreed projects of development to poor developing countries. So here you can see the map for the global north and global south, that the developed countries called global north and poor developing countries called global south. So you can remember Australia is not come under global south, but it comes under global north because it is a developed country, Australia and New Zealand. Okay, so remember this. In the 1980s, the Brunt line geographically split the world into relatively richer and poorer nations. So remember this, the Brunt line commission draw this line. Okay, so for global north and global south. Okay, and importance of global south for climate change, energy, poverty and inequality, natural resources, south-south cooperation. Okay, so these are five important area which is collectively being importance for the global north by global south. And here the common links between India and global south. Common links such as diaspora, because India has more diaspora than any other global south countries. Colonial past, because India challenges the colonial past and grow its rapidly than the colonial power such as England. India replaced uh, United Kingdom in terms of economic, okay, and socio-economic issues, because India has largest population in the world, and it has more diaspora as well as socio-economic issues with the challenges. It's being a democracy. India is the largest democratic country in the world under representation. India has underrepresentation in the global south because of lack of transparency and accountability. India's approach in global south. Okay, just a minute. Okay, India's approach to global south. Consultative in nature, outcome oriented, people centric, demand driven, equal treatment. Okay, and here enhancing engagement with global south. Engagement such as cooperation. Summits should be organized on regular time period to enhance cooperation with the global south. Mutual trust, cultural exchange programs and confidence building measures will help in enhancing mutual trust. And developments projects, with the help of like-minded country, India can implement developments projects in other global south countries, such as India is investing in Sri Lanka for western terminal. okay, and promoting the interest of the global south countries needs to be given priority by India in forums like G20, etc. And you can conclude your answer when it comes to the global south. That is, the goal of India in 2023 is to represent the global south, declaring your voice is India's voice. That Prime Minister of India declared that India is ever important in the global south than any other country in the world for the assistance of any area which is important for socio-economic conditions. And your priorities are India's priorities, because India has more priorities and India is a largest population than any other countries. In order to emerge as a Vishwaguru, like the global leader, it is important for India to promote the interest of the other developing countries. Close cooperation with global south will help India in shaping the new global order. So you can remember these are the key terms related to global south. Then you can read while post the video, okay. That is the north south debate and south south cooperation and triangular cooperation. So you can read these keywords, okay. So don't worry, we will understand this. North south debate, it is a cold war between developed north and developing and underdeveloped south. They have different perspective on issues such as energy, climate change, etc. At the international forums such as UNFCCC, that is the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, the debate between North and South can be witnessed in terms of the financial matter, that is nationally determined contributions, that more countries withdraw from this uh, initiative, okay, for financial inclusion, okay. So, such as USA withdraw from IPCC, while in 2015 France like or Paris climate was held, okay. Similarly, in World Trade Organization, the North-South debate can be witnessed over the issue of subsidies, because of WTO restricted the subsidies given by India to its farmers, okay. Just a minute. Okay. And South-South cooperation. South-South cooperation is a broad framework for collaboration and exchange among countries of the South in the political, economic, social, cultural, environmental, and technical domains. The Buenos Aires Plan of Action for promoting and implementing technical cooperation among developing countries, BAPA, was adopted by 138 UN member states in Argentina in 1978. Triangular cooperation. Triangular cooperation such as multilateral organizations to implement development cooperation programs and projects. So here you can remember triangular cooperation involves southern driven partnerships between two or more developing countries supported by developed countries, okay. So you can remember this. And related news such as Bhopal Declaration. Bhopal Declaration was released after Think 20 meeting, official engagement group of G20 bringing together leading think tanks and research centers worldwide. Key areas of Bhopal Declaration appeal to all stakeholders to focus more on inclusive development, care for welfare of every section of society in comparison to GDP. Encourage model of development led by women. Bridge the gap between North and South, promoting traditional medicine systems like Ayush. Okay, so remember this. And relations, next is the relationship between India and Egypt. Recently, Egyptian president was on a visit to India from 24 to 26 January 2023 as he was chief guest for the 74th Republic Day celebrations held in New Delhi. Development between India and Egypt. India and Egypt agreed to elevate their bilateral ties to strategic partnership covering political, security, defense, energy, and economic aspects. So these are the key areas which are growing between India and Egypt. Commemorative postal stamps to mark 75 years of establishment of India-Egypt relations were also exchanged between the two sides. Okay, so remember, as the president of G20, India has invited Egypt as a guest country for the summit to be held in 2023. How Egypt is significant for India in the geopolitical situation. Egypt is a significant actor in West Asia and an influential voice in Arab world. Egypt holds a role of significant partner to deepen India's tie with Arab nations as part of the renewed Indian focus on West Asia. Egypt accords great importance to multilateral forums that comprise developing countries such as non-aligned movement and Group of 77 considering their contributions to South-South cooperation. Geostrategic. Egypt is strategically located because here you can see here Egypt is located in the south of Mediterranean Sea, in the west of Red Sea, okay, and capital of Egypt is Cairo. Okay, so remember this. Approximately 12% of global trade traverses through the Suez Canal, which is located mid Egypt. Okay, so Egypt is very important geopolitical and geographically for India. And economic relations, bilateral trade registered a significant growth of 75% in 2021-22 to reach a figure of $7.26 billion from around $4 billion. Egypt, one of the largest importers of wheat from Russia and Ukraine, had procured wheat from India after conflict broke out between the two countries such as Ukraine and Russia. And in the relationship of energy security, Egypt is a significant player in the energy sector and India is a major importer of oil and gas. India has been working closely with Egypt to secure its energy needs and both countries have signed several agreements in this regard. And next, relationship with the boost defense industries because India has opportunity to sell its defense equipments to Egypt. Okay, Egypt is interested in procuring defense equipment from India, which includes LCA Tejas, missiles like Akash, DRDO's smart anti-airfield weapon and radars. In the field of tourism, India and Egypt have been sharing intelligence and conducting joint operations to tackle terrorism. Okay, so in prelims perspective, the joint operation between India and Egypt that performing with the military as well as the naval operations. Challenges in development of India-Egypt relations such as economic crisis because Egypt is facing economic crisis and battling a spike in inflation which make investment in the country less lucrative. Egypt has also approached the International Monetary Fund for the fourth time in 6 years for a ballot and presence of China, because China is developing on Egypt, and Egypt signs China's Belt and Road Initiative and Maritime Silk Road projects and have investment. China's bilateral trade with Egypt is currently US dollar 15 billion, whereas double that of India's 7.26 billion in 2021-22. And human right violations. For example, in 2013, Egypt committed the Rabba massacre, in which security forces killed over 800 peaceful protesters, and India is a staunch supporter of human rights in the world. And political dynamics, changing political dynamics of the Gulf region, such as Abraham Accord, New Quad, and India balancing out approach might have impact on it. Okay, and what are the suggestions to improve relations between India and Egypt? Use of non-aligned movement. India and Egypt can leverage the non-aligned movement to find common ground and reform international organizations such as UNSC and the World Bank, because both countries are the members of non-aligned movement in the past as well as in the present. And collaboration with like-minded countries. India can collaborate with like-minded countries including Japan. Such like-minded countries can invest on Egypt and create its infrastructure and investment on Egyptian economic as well as the manufacturing sector to reduce the dominance of China and explore the Asia-Africa growth corridor model. Okay, and utilizing India-Africa Forum. India can utilize the India-Africa Forum to strengthen multilateral relations with Egypt and people-to-people contact, because India has the largest population in the world. So Indian students can go to Egypt for higher education, as well as Indian Egyptian students can come India for the higher studies, and two countries can foster closer ties through initiatives such as education, tourism, culture, as well as academic exchanges. Okay, so here these are the brief history of India-Egypt relations. So you can pause the video and look this timeline for India-Egypt relationships. Okay, and next is the relationship of India and Eurasia. Recently, several countries including Japan, South Korea, Australia, etc. have taken initiatives suggesting a growing focus over better relationship between European and Asian countries. Okay, what Eurasia? Eurasia is the largest continental area on earth, such as this. This is the Eurasian continent. Okay, okay, so it is the largest continent in the world on the planet. Okay, comprising 93 countries of Europe, Middle East, and Asia, and is home to over 5 billion people. Eurasia region is geographically represented by Eurasian tectonic plate, one of the several large plates that cover our planet. However, there is a lack of an agreed international understanding of what constitutes the region. Resources in Eurasia. Eurasia is one of the most natural resource rich regions in the world, such as 31% of its proven natural gas reserves, 17% of oil reserves, 23% of iron ore, 14% of gold, and 7% of copper. So remember this. And this is the Eurasian continent. Okay, largest continental area on earth, comprising you can remember these facts which can ask in the upcoming prelims examination. Okay, so these are the natural resources which are available in Eurasian continent. And how significance of Eurasia in present world order. China's assertiveness. China with projects like Belt and Road Initiative is striving for a great power status and thus has increased engagement within Eurasia. Changing geostrategic alignments. China-Russia relationship has been cemented by the growing animosity between China and USA as trade war, as witnessed in defense exercise maritime cooperation in 2022. For example, China and Russia signed declaration on Great Eurasian Partnership in 2015 aimed at synchronizing BRI and Eurasian Economic Union. So you can remember this. And regional alliances. Russia and Iran have deepened diplomatic and economic relations due to sanctions imposed on them by United States of America due to nuclear program and Ukraine war respectively, and Iran is going to engage with China as well as Russia. A potential China, Russia, Pakistan, Iran and Turkey regional security arrangement is taking shape aimed to counter the Quad's growing influence. Okay, and countermeasure to Indo-Pacific region. Japan, Australia, along with USA is confining them to the Indo-Pacific region. China and Russia, as a countermeasure, are developing Eurasia as a power bloc. And what are the challenges for India in Eurasian region? Delayed projects. Most of the International North-South Transport Corridor project. This is the North-South Transport Corridor project. Here you can see here that this is International North-South Transport Corridor route through India, Iran, Azerbaijan, Russia, through mid-Europe or northern Europe, through North Sea and through Mediterranean Sea, Red Sea and Arabian Sea is coming from Europe to India. Okay, so this is the North-South Transport Corridor is very important for economic perspectives of India as well as the Eurasian continent. And countermeasure to Indo-Pacific region. Japan, Australia along with USA is confining them to the Indo-Pacific region. So you can remember this. Okay, and what are the challenges for India in Eurasian region? Delayed projects. Okay, we have read this. Most of the INSTC projects except for Azerbaijan and KTI, that is Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan and Iran railway corridor, Chabar port and Ashgabat agreement transport corridor have not received financing from the major global financial institutions. Okay, such as the World Bank, European Investment Bank. Yeah, rise of China amid sanctions. China's increasing footprint through BRI initiative and bilateral ties between Russia, China, especially after sanctions imposed on Russia due to Ukraine war, pose a challenge for India. So you can remember. Okay, and next challenge is the regional turmoil. Since the beginning of Eurozone crisis in 2019, European Union has experienced a series of challenges like influx of refugees from Northern Africa to the Europe through the Mediterranean Sea. Okay, and Brexit means exit of England from European Union, and COVID-19 pandemic and the Russian invasion of Ukraine recently is ongoing, and diplomatic challenge balancing West such as USA and NATO allies, and East, such as Russia, has posed a significant diplomatic challenge for India. With Eurasia's rising geopolitical stature, this challenge might further get difficult for India because India is vulnerable to engage ties with the West as well as in the Eurasian countries such as Russia and China. And how you can tackle this challenge with the way forward for India for free trade through free trade agreements. How free trade agreement is very crucial for India with the ties with another Eurasian countries. India must prioritize investments in Eurasia and expedite free trade agreements. The swift completion of the long-awaited free trade agreement between India and European Union is in India's best interest given the region's human and economic capital engaging NATO and European Union because this NATO against Russian Federation and India's Eurasian policy must involve greater engagement with both the European Union as well as NATO allies and regional platforms. India should strive towards regular engagement with Russia and China by utilizing platforms of SCO such as Shanghai Cooperation Organization and BRICS such as Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa and RIC members such as Russia, India and China to ensure wider cooperation on continental Eurasian security. So you can remember this, okay? And improve connectivity, fast track projects like international north-south transport corridor to ensure connectivity and further boost ties with the Eurasian region. And India should seek to join Russia's Greater Eurasian Corridor and the Northeast Passage to connect to the Far East and even Japan. So wait 1 minute. I'm reading chat. Okay. Good evening. AG Assassin. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Yes. Collaboration with Iran and Arabia. Iran's location makes it critical for the future of Afghanistan and Central Asia, and the religious influence of Arabia is consequential in the region. India's partnerships with these countries are also critical in overcoming Turkey's alliance with the global south countries like Pakistan. And next, relationship with India-China trade relations. India's trade deficit with China has crossed $100 billion mark for the first time ever in the history of India-China bilateral trade relations. An overview of trade relations between both China as well as India. In trade and economic relationship between both countries, more than $135 billion in the year 2022 mark crossed the trade between India and China, and India's imports accounting for $118 billion. China is one of the largest trading partners of India, and on the other hand, United States is the largest trading partner of China. So you can remember this is the concern of India's trade with China as well as the trade deficit countries with India and reasons for rising trade deficit such as the growing imports. Imports from China have increased in the recent years for many finished and intermediate goods like electrical machinery. India is heavily dependent on China. Low value export. India's export to China mainly includes primary goods such as iron ore, etc., which have very less monetary value in terms of finished product of China. These are the major export and import between India and China. Export from India such as petroleum product, organic chemicals and maritime products, nuclear products, salt, sulfur, earth and stone, and major imports from China to India such as electrical machinery, nuclear products, organic chemicals, plastics and its articles, and iron and steel including its products. So these are the some import and export trading goods between transporting between India and China, and factors affecting trade relations such as border disputes, emotional sentiments of people, global economic scenario, demand and supply between India and China. So remember this. And protective measures. These are the initiatives taken by India to check trade deficits, reducing imports, such as protective measures, anti-dumping and countervailing duties are being imposed on Chinese products which violate the trade rules. And Atmanirbhar Bharat. Under this initiative, government is promoting domestic products. For instance, manufacture of active pharmaceutical ingredients such as APIs is promoted in India. Also, India's decision to not join the regional comprehensive economic partnership, which is joined by China with the Southeast Asian countries, which is partnership with the 55 plus 10 countries in excluding India. Okay, and global supply chain management with the help of like-minded countries like Japan, Australia, USA, etc. India is working to improve the global supply chain. Products ban. India has banned certain products such as several Chinese applications and power equipments, etc. Okay, and enhance exports such as production linked incentive PLI scheme, which was launched in 2020 during the pandemic. Under it, the government provides incentives to Indian companies based on sales of their products, and Make in India program, which was launched in 2014, and objectives of it is to make India a hub of manufacturing in the world. And promotion of a specific sector. In 2020, the Ministry of Commerce and Industry identified 12 sectors to make India a global supplier and cut import bills. Okay, so remember this. And you can remember also this, the anti-dumping duty and countervailing duty. So you can remember in the economic perspective, anti-dumping duty is what? That tax imposed on imported goods to rectify the situation arising out of the dumping of goods and its trade distortive efforts. Okay, and dumping is an unfair trade practice which occurs when goods are exported by a country to another country at a price lower than its normal value. For example, China is dumping its good to Indian territory and Indian markets, and India is retaliating over the Chinese goods to the, the imposed tax on the imported Chinese goods. Okay, so this is the simplest manner of the anti-dumping duty. And countervailing duty is the specific form of duty that the government imposes to protect domestic producers such as the Indian farmers and Indian producers that create multiple goods to export from India to the another countries. And India protects its farmers as well as its producers from imposing the countervailing duty to protect domestic producers by countering the negative impact of import subsidies. So you can remember this. And how this negativity can be challenged through some specific points such as self-reliant. The policy needs to be formulated to promote self-reliance in the sphere of electrical, acute pharmaceuticals, ingredients, etc. sphere. More emphasis should be given on initiatives like vocal for local. So remember this, vocal for local. And vocal for local was launched first time for UP government by UP government. Then it was launched by the central government. After it was created a good initiative for the manufacturing or self-reliant for Indian goods, okay, and market access by using diplomatic channel and soft power. More access to high value export would be provided. And import substitutions, India can effectively substitute Chinese import by domestic products, okay, such as India banned more Chinese application, such as initially it was around 59 Chinese app including TikTok. And competitiveness of Indian products. If we enhance the cost effectiveness of Indian products, then demand of Chinese product can be checked. Yeah, simple. And you can conclude, when it comes to the relationship between India and China, India should formulate a strategic policy to reduce the trade deficit. Also, it should raise its concern with the China about the skewed trade deficit so that effective steps for market access can be taken. Okay, and you can remember this: investments from China to India, such as FDI policy, foreign direct investment and foreign portfolio investment from China have raised rapidly in recent years. Inflow is more in the form of foreign portfolio investment, which is a major cause of concern. That recently Chinese company purchases the HDFC Bank shares around initially 0.5%, and it was reached from 0.5% to 1%. So it was concerned for India to protect its HDFC banks, okay, not to increase the share of Chinese company, okay. And investment is mainly focused on technology startup segment. In 2020, FDI policy of India was revised to curb opportunistic takeovers on acquisitions of Indian companies. The amended policy states that an entity of a country which shares a land border with India, so India has created its policy that the which countries those countries which are touched with the Indian border cannot purchase any share through the automatic route, but it will be permitted, these were permitted through the government route, okay. So this was the good initiative for Indian government, so you can remember. And next is the India and United States trade relations, okay. So why was it news? The 13th ministerial meeting of the India-US Trade Policy Forum was organized to discuss trade-related issues. An outcome of this meeting, a new working group on resilient trade was launched. And what is the objective of this meeting? To deepen bilateral dialogue on a range of issues that can enhance the resiliency and sustainability of the trade relationship, including on trade facilitation benefiting workers and promoting sustainable and inclusive growth. What are the significance of this India-US trade meeting? In terms of exports, India has a trade surplus with United States because India has crossed its trade surplus, its trade export over the China's product, okay. It is one of the major export destinations of India. And investments, American companies are investing huge capital in the form of foreign direct investment such as Apple, Google, Microsoft, etc., and foreign institutional investment. This has helped in job creation in India through the FDI as well as foreign portfolio investment, okay. And information and technology hub, India has emerged as IT hub after taking inspiration from the Silicon Valley of United States. People to people relations, such as due to improving trade relation, the people of people to people contacts between both the countries have increased, and remittances, okay, technological transfer due to close trade partnership, technology transfer has become easy as compared to early days. So remember this. And what are the challenges behind India US trade ties through this meeting? Tariff barrier. Both accuse each other from imposing high tariff rates. For instance, for example, in 2018, the US imposed a tariff on certain steel products. You can remember, US imposed tariffs on steel products of Indian goods, Indian steel products, and a tariff on certain aluminum products, steel and aluminum products from India. Then India also imposed tariff on certain products in retaliation of US goods. Next challenge is non-tariff barriers. US claims that sanitary and phytosanitary barriers are imposed by India to limit US agricultural exports and self-reliance or Atmanirbhar Bharat. US perceive India's Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative as protectionist move. As per US, India has introduced market access barriers under this initiative in the form of tariffs, localization requirements, indigenous standards requirements and labeling practices, price controls and import restrictions, and generalized system of preferences. This is the very crucial initiative by US to its developing countries, but GSP was restricted by US to the hands of India. So it was the severe blow of Indian relationship with the US. In 2019, economic relations, not the political relations, okay. In 2019, the United States removed India from GSP. The GSP allows eligible developing countries to export duty-free goods to the US. And policies of localization. India's move for creating data centers in India is being criticized by the American companies. And digital tax. India has suggested to impose the digital companies for the initiative in the developing countries as 2% tax on revenue generated from a broad range of digital services offered in India by non-resident companies. But resident companies are non-taxed, whereas the non-resident companies are taxed, will be taxed. Okay, intellectual property. India remained on the priority watch list of the US Special 301 report, which cited such US concerns as India's patent treatment, high intellectual property theft rates, and tax rate secret protection. And access to professionals. US has tightened the norms of L1 and H1B visa categories. So remember this. And next challenge is India has alleged that the US is violating its obligations under General Agreement on Trade in Services such as GATS of WTO, as well as the GATS Annex on Movement of Natural Persons supplying services to not discriminate against or between non-US services. How these problems can be tackled? Through disputes resolution. All the disputes should be solved by negotiation as soon as possible. And mutual trust and cooperation. Both countries should show mutual trust and cooperation, cooperate with each other at regional and multilateral forums. The US Department of Treasury in November 2022 removed India from its currency monitoring list of major trading collaborators after 2 years. An easing barrier. Both tariff and non-tariff barrier need to reduce to minimal. It will help in taking bilateral trade to $500-600 billion by 2030. So remember this. Okay, so these are the some economic relations as well as political relations, which is negativity as well as positivity between India and US. So you can remember this. an initiative on critical and emerging technologies signed by India and US, and this was held in US. That India and US signed this initiative on critical and emerging technologies. This initiative is a unique initiative led by the Indian National Security Council Secretariat and the US National Security Council. An aim of this ICET to expand partnership in critical and emerging technologies and significance of ICET vital for India's growing role as a trusted supply chain partner and contributor in the global technology value chain, and deals directly with disruptive domains which are central to the next industrial revolution and future warfare, whereas the India and US can transfer its technology with each other, open new markets for India's deep technology players, because this initiative will improve the situation of defense warfare between India and US. Since most critical and emerging technologies today are dual use, it can give a fillip to the two countries' innovation ecosystem and potentially opens the door for the US to lift existing export control restrictions. So remember about this initiative on critical and emerging technologies, and these are the key areas of initiative on critical and emerging technologies for cooperation, such as in the field of space, semiconductors, advanced telecom, which would include things like 6G instead of 5G, and defense innovation and scientific research and development, and quantum and artificial intelligence such as machine learning, chat GPT, okay, and internet of things. So these are the technological relationship between India and US. An Indian diaspora in Latin America. Why was in news that 17th Pravasi Bharatiya Divas convention in focus on Latin America's diaspora connection with two Indian origin presidents from the region attending as special guests. How Pravasi Bharatiya Divas is celebrated. Pravasi Bharatiya Divas is observed every 2 years on 9th of January. It commemorates the return of Mahatma Gandhi from South Africa to India on 9th of January to 1915. The first Pravasi Bharatiya Divas convention was organized on 9th of January 2003. Since 2015, Pravasi Bharatiya Divas convention has been organized once every 2 years. So remember this for upcoming prelims examination. India hosted the 17th Pravasi Bharatiya Divas convention in Indore, Madhya Pradesh this year. And theme of this Pravasi Bharatiya Divas was Diaspora, Reliable Partners for India's Progress in Amrit Kal. In the convention, Pravasi Bharati Samman Awards were also conferred. Indian diaspora in Latin America, 19th to 20th century. Indian indentured laborers were brought to countries such as Trinidad and Tobago, Guyana, Suriname, and Jamaica to work on sugar plantations. So this is the historical background of Indian diaspora. About the Indian diaspora were reached to these Latin American countries through as indentured laborers by the colonial leaders, by the colonial past, okay, and during the 1960s and 1970s after independence of Indian region, okay, a large number of Indian professionals such as doctors, engineers, and scientists migrated to Latin America to work in various fields. The core of the event is to provide a platform for the Indian diaspora across the globe to engage with the government and help strengthen ties and contribution of Indian diaspora in Latin America, such as in the field of demography, because Indian diaspora is largest ever in the world. The status of Indian diaspora in Latin America varies from country to country because Indian diaspora accounts for a major portion of the populations of Trinidad, Suriname, and Guyana. And there were subsequent migrations by Indians, businessmen, and professionals to other countries of the region, but these were very few in number. And you can remember these countries are located in the Caribbean island countries in Caribbean Sea, okay. And polity, in the polity, the wisdom and governance skills of Indian paved the way for them to serve at the important constitutional post, including head of state such as president as well as prime minister. For instance, the Christian Kangalu is president of Trinidad and Tobago. Irfan Ali is the president of Guyana. Chan Santoki is president of Suriname, etc. So these are the some contribution of Indian nationals in the Latin American as well as Caribbean island countries. And culture, in the field of culture, Indians have added new dimensions to the social and cultural fabric of the Latin America. It includes music, different religious beliefs, new vocabulary, dance, fashion, art, and festivals. In the field of economic, due to the consistent effort over the years, Indian diaspora has emerged as a strong economic power in the region. They moved from primary activities to secondary activities and more important to the tertiary sectors because services sectors are growing during 1960s to the present. They create lot of job opportunities for the locals. And significance of Indian diaspora for India. The and challenges in effective engagement with diaspora in policy paralysis. According to the Standing Committee on External Affairs, there is no clear policy on diaspora is in place despite their socio-economic contributions to the development of the country and limited engagement. While there are several initiatives aimed at engaging with the diaspora, the level of engagement is often limited because government of India initiated the more crucial initiative for Indian diaspora such as Government of India merged OCI and non-resident Indian card holder into one, okay, for the clear cut in understanding of these Indian diaspora. And database on Indian diaspora, Ministry of External Affairs does not have updated data on Indian diaspora as registration with Indian embassies in voluntary. Multiple portals for grievance redressal. Several portals such as eMigrate and the centralized public grievance redressal and monitoring system are in place to resolve the grievances of Indian nationals abroad, but multiple portals often delay grievance resolution. And next challenge is the domestic issues. Government is engaged in several domestic issues like poverty alleviation, development works, etc. due to which less attention to pay toward engagement with the diaspora because the lack of transparency and accountability as well the more crucial and important for the regulation of Indian diaspora in abroad as well as Indian relation. Limited resources because India has a vast diaspora community and it becomes challenging to cater to their needs and demands because of the brain drain. Why brain drain is happening from India to the abroad? Because of lack of research and development in the country. And how these problems can be tackled. Through policy formulation, draft a clear policy document on the diaspora which would serve as a guiding principle for engagement with the community. And database on Indian diaspora. Indian embassies should encourage the diaspora to register themselves, which will help in effective implementation of welfare schemes, such as more schemes which has launched by the government of India for the international at the international level and for the Indian diaspora as well, and foster engagement, a friendlier reception at their point of entry. Easier procedures for immigration and customs clearances are essential for engagement and provide opportunities for participation and engagement through initiatives such as community events, mentorship programs, internships, or volunteer programs. Okay, so these are the some crucial initiative which can the tackle problems of with the Indian diaspora for the country. And significance of Indian diaspora for India for remittances. This year more than $100 billion remittances crossed because of Indian diaspora, according to the World Bank's Migration and Development Brief. And political support. Indian diaspora is a significant political force in many countries such as United States, United Kingdom, and Guyana, etc. And soft power. Indian diaspora has this soft power diplomacy because more diaspora connecting India with another Western countries as well as the European countries. Brain gain. Indian diaspora can bring their knowledge and skills back to India through collaborations, partnerships, and initiatives, and create more service sectors in Indian youth for Indian youth. Okay, and trade and investment. Diaspora facilitate and enhance investment, accelerate industrial development, and boost international trade. So these are the some significance of Indian diaspora for the countries of for development and its growth of the country. Okay, so here we will end the lecture, and next lecture will be from India and United Nations peacekeeping. So you can read this topic from the from your notes as well as from standard books. Okay, so we will end here. So like the video and subscribe this YouTube channel. So thank you for watching. Have a great day.